Welcome, friends,
to the How-To Heretic.
I'm Uncle Mark.
And I'm Uncle Dan.
And I'm Uncle Doug.
And this is your user's guide to life on the outside.
That's right. Leaving religion is the first step into a larger, better world.
But it can also be a scary world. Scream. Things work differently now.
Never fear. That's why we're here.
We're your audio uncles. And with help from good friends and experts in all sorts of fields.
We're going to share the stories and seek the knowledge to build a great life.
After all, you only get the one that we know of, so you'd better make the most of it.
Charge!
Well, brother uncles.
Hello.
Is that like sister wives?
That's exactly right. We have a quorum of Mormon brother uncles. So here we are. Episode 93. They said it couldn't be done, but we did it anyway, thanks to the good folks at Diet Dr. Pepper. But their sponsorship and your sponsorship this week, we're going to bring you some great stories. I'm going to talk about a God that you really hope never notices you.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, right. I am going to take us to the cinema and bring the family.
Oh my goodness! Yeah. And what a treat! What a trip it will be! It's a treat. And then I am going to have. We're going to have family home evening, and I'm going to read us all a story from the Book of Mormon.
Ugh.
A bit of the old ultra-violence for the kiddies.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Right? That sounds fun. Let's do that.
Woo-hoo. Let's just jump in.
Hey, Uncle Doug.
Uncle Dan.
What we haven't had for a while is a good
erection
that lasts more than 4 hours. Now that would be a god to worship. If a god could give you some, like, turbo erections, I'm guessing that god would do very well. But what I'm saying is we haven't had a good god to recommend for people to worship for a while.
No, I think you're right. I think there are so many that are no longer with us that are worth looking at, and I think Uncle Mark's got one of them.
Well, and before I get to that, it always makes me laugh when they warn about the erection lasting more than 4 hours. Because I think I had an erection that lasted from age 13 till about 19.
Yeah.
So that was more than 4 hours, and I didn't know I should call a physician.
As you've admitted on this show, Mark, you didn't take the proper action for too long.
Yeah, it was quite an unrequited boner.
I was an unrequited boner. I didn't touch the devil's wand for all those years. You guys were doing it. So anyway, that is hey everyone. That aside. As you guys were saying, it's been a while since I myself, you guys kind of do this more often it seems, but it's been a while since I myself dipped my toe into the river of reason and knowledge that runs between living godhood and discarded, unloved mythical figures that separates reality from that mysterious patch of land we call the graveyard of the gods. So I thought I would visit that overcrowded ash heap once again after so long an absence and visit one of the more obscure graves near the back.
Oh, fun.
So for today's eulogy, that isn't quite a eulogy, as this guy's name weirdly is still evoked from time to time. You'll see. I found someone not fully understood by modern seekers because very little is actually written about him, and he is definitely a him. But he intrigued me nonetheless today, and I want to lay some very bloody flowers on the high mountain grave of Crom. So, Crom is the principal god of the pantheon of the long-gone Sumerian people. Sumerian with a C, like almost cinnamon. The Sumerians were a kind of proto-Celtic people dating back to the Thurian age, who settled in the rugged high mountain region once known, fittingly enough, as Cimmeria. Interestingly,
Uncle Doug,
yes.
Do you get the sense that Uncle Mark is making all of this up?
Pretty much everything Uncle Mark has ever told me in my life, I'm pretty sure he made up.
Even when I told him that he wasn't adopted. So
just stop telling us about the Thermians and the. Anyway, go ahead. Go on.
It's just history, guys.
The cinnamons and the. Yeah, okay, fine.
Interestingly, there are claims that this lost people are descended from the even more lost Atlanteans, which we've discussed before in episodes 52 and 15, and very unlike the submerged continent, references to Atlantis and its sister continent, Lemuria, keep bobbing to the surface in so many weird places we cover. So, for some reason, these sons and daughters of Atlantis fled their coastal and then suddenly supercoastal continent for the cold, brutal highlands of an Indo-European sort of range, and Crom and the cruel pantheon he oversees seem very much an indigenous idea to such a cold, unforgiving environment. So, now, listeners and you guys, you may recognize some of the other names in this grim pantheon, because as we've discussed countless times before on our show, every religion is just an evolution of the one it displaced, or more directly, when one is just fully inventing a religion, it's easier to plagiarize, borrow, and godnap than to start from scratch. So
it would be stupid. It would be stupid to start from scratch when there's so much good source material out there.
Yes, we're all standing on the shoulders of idiots.
So, Crom's moody, eternal sky is shared by Manan Maclear, god of the sea, Babad, B-A-B-D, the crow war goddess, and Morrigan, the phantom queen. So it's all a little nightmarish, and you could do better than having been born a Cimmerian in the Thurian age. So back to Crom himself, who is Cimmeria's most eligible and least interested bachelor. It turns out his own name may actually be derived from the Celtic deity Crom Cruach or Crom Dub. I'm sure I'm nailing those.
God bless you.
He was a very old pre-Christian Irish deity associated with human sacrifice, who good St. Patrick is rumored to have driven out with the snakes. And worry not, listeners, we'll do a job on St. Patrick and what the snakes really were. Another time, it's horrible. But the Crom of the mountains...
It was the Jews.
It was the Jew, kind of, yeah. But the Irish Jews of the time. Yeah. But the Crom of the mountains, untamed peoples of ancient Cimmeria, has his own particular vibe. He is also known as the Grim Lord and the Lord of the Great Grey Mountain. What I find fascinating about Crom is his total divergence from the concept of the Father God shared by Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, in that rather than a vain, preening, Trump-like figure desperate for constant affirmation and attention, lest he decides to drown the entire world in a hissy fit yet again, Crom could give a fuck. Even as the Father God of the Cimmerian people, he's a supremely remote and emotionally unavailable father, as many of us from the mountain strongholds of Mormon country will find very familiar.
Like most dads, yeah, exactly.
Like most dads. So, in fact, Crom is not really worshipped in the classical sense. Despite being the main deity of a whole culture, he has no priesthood, no set prayers, no sacrifices of any kind, and no holiday in his honor. Much like the emotionally unavailable and even abusive fathers I hinted at before, the best possible relationship you can have with Crom is for him never to notice you. So I wonder if Doug finds something familiar in that.
Yeah, exactly.
So here's what one writer had to say about this remote god. He dwells on a great mountain. What use to call on him? Little he cares if men live or die. Better to be silent than to call his attention to you. He will send you dooms, not fortune. He is grim and loveless, but at birth he breathes power to strive and to slay in a man's soul. What else shall man ask of the gods? And again, because there's little known, there's this little known god is from such a mysterious civilization. Here's the same author further explaining Mr. Sunshine. Crom was their chief, and he lived on a great mountain, whence he sent forth dooms and death. It was useless to call on Crom because he was a gloomy, savage god, and he hated weaklings. But he gave man a courage at birth, and the will and the might to kill his enemies, which, in the Cimmerian's mind, was all any god should be expected to do.
See, so, if Ayn Rand had known about Crom, she wouldn't have been an atheist.
Right. Exactly.
That's actually, that's pretty amazing. That he would be a perfect fit for her, right? So the idea with Crom was that he breathed life into man, and it seems just men, male people specifically, at birth. And with that breath came all the strength, valor, and gifts a man would need to conquer and take all that he would in life. What you did with the gifts breathed into you when you first drew breath is your own business. Crom could give a fuck. And by the way, I found a keep calm and carry on graphic online that said Crom cares not, carry on, which is pretty hilarious. So. But that's not 100% accurate. It seems Crom cared just a tiny bit. As the author mentioned above, Crom respected valor and despised weakness. He was very rarely called upon. Again, best he didn't notice you, lest he squash you like a bug for bothering him. But if he saw you squandering the gifts he breathed into you before he fucked off, he might just squash you out of shame. Sure. But if he noticed an insane amount of violence somewhere in the shadow of his realm, he may grant some strength, even inhuman strength, to be glorious in battle, because as one of his greatest warriors replied when asked what is best in life, to crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentation of their women. So that's nice, right?
I
guys?
mean, it's one of the great joys. I mean, it's up there, but I wouldn't put it above
the laughter of children.
Yeah, exactly.
Summer sunset.
A nice huckleberry ice cream is nice, but yeah, I mean, the lamentation of the women is good.
Yeah. It's a weird bumper sticker
I
to
think
have on my car.
it couples nicely with the huckleberry ice cream. So
Yeah.
we are fortunate to have a few more words from this warrior preserved through the ages, and it's in the form of a bizarrely rare prayer to this dangerous god. On the eve of a great battle in which he was absurdly outnumbered and destined to lose, this warrior dared to call upon Crom by name in a high-stakes gamble. And I quote, "Crom, I have never prayed to you before. I have no tongue for it. No one, not even you, will remember if we were good men or bad, why we fought and why we died. All that matters is that today, two stood against many. Valor pleases you, so grant me this one request. Grant me revenge. And if you do not listen, the hell with you."
Nice.
And nice, huh? Direct quote.
Good prayer.
And Crom did grant this psychopathically valiant warrior revenge as he vanquished the greatest Stygian knights of Set, including the one who killed his parents and enslaved him, the evil high priest of Set, Thulsa Doom, and he lived on to fight other epic battles. Luckily, history records this great warrior's name. He was, of course, the first Austrian governor of California, Arnold Alois Schwarzenegger, a.k.a. Conan the Barbarian.
Oh, nice. Yes.
That's right. Crom. So
Get to the chopper.
Governor Schwarzenegger prayed this prayer to Crom in 1982's sort of underrated epic Conan the Barbarian, a film directed by John Milius and co-written by none other than Oliver Stone.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and produced by the great Dino De Laurentiis, who, full disclosure, also produced a movie I worked on, The Army of Darkness.
Oh.
Yes, indeed.
So I am connected to Crom in some strange way. But that campy and very bloody film epic was adapted from the literary works of Robert Irvin Howard, who is an American pulp author born in Peaster, Texas in 1906, who invented not only Conan the Barbarian, but his race of the Cimmerian people, who lived in the Thurian Age, and sadly their not very nice father god Crom in 1932.
Oh.
So now, dear listeners, I hope you don't begrudge my little sleight of hand. Why would I lead you to believe this Crom fellow might have been a real god when he was, in fact, a total fabrication?
You did trick us. You tricked us. I feel tricked.
My notes say allow pregnant pause here. So Robert E. Howard invented the cruel, distant god to help sell pulp novels and comic books. Not so sinister a purpose, if you ask me. People bought them to enjoy losing themselves in Crom and Conan's merciless, violent world and of daring and magic for a while. And it was fiction sold as fiction by people who bought it as fiction just for fun. So our earliest ancestors likely personified the forces of nature in order to try to make some sense out of the terrifying forces that one encountered just by being alive. Not only things like earthquakes or lightning and floods, but illness, violence, suffering of all kinds. They also personified positive forces like love and abundance. And as people and societies became more complex and interdependent, in many places the elemental gods faded and more monotheistic ideas of a highly involved, unlike Crom, but impossible to please, very much like Crom, father figure emerged as the dominant idea. And as this sort of singular father figure, of course, needed a class of elites to speak to him and for him, since the notion of God was no longer dispersed into every corner of the natural world. So the evolution of God from explanation for the unknown to method of societal and personal behavior control by an elite priesthood has become complete. So, I mean, that's probably all a bit of an oversimplification, but that's the overall gist of how we inherited the shitty gods we still have to contend with today. They were all made up for some perfectly understandable reasons, like not knowing why any natural phenomenon happened, or to sell some fun fantasy novels, and some for cynical and diabolical reasons, like controlling women and making countless generations of people learn to inhibit themselves through shame and guilt. But they're all made up nonetheless.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, you say for good reasons or bad reasons, I say, ¿por qué no los dos?
Right.
I say,
Yes,
you
why
can
not both?
make them up for both reasons. You can have the
Exactly
good and
right.
the bad in a beautiful, controlling religious sandwich.
And they can start good and end up very bad, and that happens so often it's impossible to count.
Like an uncle's heaven.
Like in Uncle's Heaven, it just, it turns so sour so quick. So as we lay this week's cruel god to rest in the fiction section of the Graveyard of the Gods, take a moment to realize that the whole place is just one big fiction section,
Right.
and it's getting new entries all the time. So rest in pieces, Crom, Lord of the Great Grey Mountain.
All hail Crom.
Crom!
Yeah.
Moving on.
Let's move on. Uncle Dan,
Yes.
if there's one thing I know the three of us love, it is
Popsicles.
other than Cinnabon, it is cinema.
Oh, we are cinephiles for sure.
Cinephiles, we're patrons of all the arts, but
Yes.
cinema is very close to our hearts indeed.
Indeed, yeah, absolutely. We do love the. You are currently torturing yourself in Canada, just to be a part of the cinematic world.
I am currently suffering for the art of cinema. Yes, thank you, but it's not so much the movie. It's just the fucking traffic in Toronto. Can I just say that on
Yes,
the show?
yes, you can say that. You can.
This city. Okay. So
Well,
Doug,
you know what? And maybe that's why this movie world has embraced it so much. Is that all those LA people feel so much at home?
Right.
Well, it's actually not as bad as LA's not as bad as this. So I think it makes you feel good going back to LA after
Holy
this.
shit!
But that
crazy.
aside, Uncle Doug,
yeah.
what do you like about cinema?
Well, I like
or
all
what,
things.
Or what don't you like about cinema, and what could be changed to make it all better?
Well, I like all things cinema, and unlike some people, I'm willing to wrap my arms around someone's work, warts and all, but I'm not, there are other people who feel differently. I saw this headline in the news the other day, and I did a double take because I had this tremendous sense of deja vu. I don't remember what aggregating site I saw the headline, but the article was on Engadget.com.
Right.
The headline was "Movie Sanitizing Service Ordered to Pay $62 million in Piracy Lawsuit." I was like, huh? Now, before I explain why I did a double take and why I had deja vu, let me just explain the headline. There is a movie service, quote unquote, called VidAngel.
Yeah.
VidAngel, which bills itself as a family-friendly video content editing service. And basically they offer sanitized versions of movies and series that the whole family can enjoy. Their filtering software is incredibly specific. We'll get to that in a minute. Okay. But it was launched in 2014 in Provo, Utah, which
That's right.
is a fact I didn't know when I started looking into this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and that's another reason I felt such deja vu. I wasn't intending to talk about a Mormon subject today. For once, I thought I could talk about something else.
Yeah.
But just when I think I'm out, they pull me back in.
Keep pulling you back in.
And these guys are decided...
Which was edited out of The Godfather, by the way.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
It's one of the only things that would still be in the movie.
What's nice about that is that then all of the Godfather movies, you can watch them in succession, and they're down to a much more manageable 23 minutes.
Exactly. Exactly. These guys are decidedly Mormon. One of their taglines is, "Watch whatever the bleep you want."
They're so funny.
It's just so Mormon. It's
Mormons are the cutest.
So
Yuck.
their original business model was for customers to purchase DVDs of movies that had been edited for their, removing sex, profanity, violence, or all of the above, and then VidAngel would buy back the DVD for a few dollars less than they originally paid. So customers could essentially, quote unquote, rent edited movies, but this VidAngel thought skirted some of the copyright laws that they were obviously breaking.
Because they weren't the first to venture
not.
into this.
They were not. So guess who didn't like this business model?
Gosh, let me guess.
Right. In 2016, VidAngel was sued by Lucasfilm, 20th Century Fox, Disney Enterprises, and Warner Brothers, which is not a subpoena any of us would like to see.
No, you don't want to see that in your mailbox.
Listen, when those small-time hacks come after you, there's nothing to worry about.
That's right.
It's not, maybe they've got a lawyer or something. It's not like they've got a team of thousands of lawyers.
They were forced to shut down operations for a while, but undaunted, they relaunched as a streaming service in June of 2017. But unsurprisingly,
they're insane.
Yeah. Oh my God, Mark, you have
They're
no
insane.
idea.
Like,
you have no idea how insane they are.
I happen to have some familiarity with a couple of those studios, and I've been to their buildings where there are 3 floors of lawyers.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Right. Not
So-
3 offices, 3 floors.
Yeah.
So they're insane.
The movie studios weren't okay with them being a streaming service either. And then, as part of a legal strategy, VidAngel actually filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in October of 2017 to try and shield whatever was left of their company from further litigation. Guess how that worked? And that's how things stood up until a couple of days ago when a jury ordered VidAngel to pay the major studios $62.4 million in damages. So if that holds up through appeal, VidAngel is toast.
Ooh, yeah.
But at least as of today, their streaming service is still available. More on that in a second. The reason this caught my eye is that back in 2000, also in Provo, as it turns out, a company called CleanFlix tried to do the exact same thing. Do you guys remember
Right.
this?
I remember.
Yeah, I totally do.
Let me tell you what I remember about CleanFlix. I was driving in Provo one time, and they had storefronts there, and I drove past a CleanFlix store, and the way that they had crafted their logo, their sign, the font, they had kerned it too close together so that the L and the I in CleanFlix were so close together it looked like a U, so it said Clean Fucks. It was delightful.
Which is ironic, yeah. So this is kind of funny as an aside. This makes sense that both of these enterprises would come out of Provo, as Mormons are not supposed to watch R-rated movies, but desperately want to be part of popular culture.
Yeah, that's very true.
So
Now, mind you, we should talk about like what we're talking about, because what these services did was they edit out the swears.
Yep.
That's the first thing that's got to go.
Yeah.
What else did they?
That's exactly what they would. And CleanFlix actually would buy a movie, rip it, and then make edited copies of it and sell those copies. And they would edit out swearing, nudity, sometimes excessive violence, but not as often excessive violence, and
any sex.
But oh my God, you guys are going to die when you get to this part. It's so crazy. So
And they got crushed.
yeah,
right?
so yeah, CleanFlix was doing ripping
Clean
these
Fox
DVDs.
got fucked.
Right.
Yeah.
Guess who didn't like that? A suit was filed that included Steven Spielberg, Steven Soderbergh, Robert Redford, Sidney Pollack, Robert Altman, John Landis, and Martin Scorsese, among others. And this, dear uncles, is a conspiracy that actually does end up with the Jews.
I was going to say it's all the Jews.
And surprised they were found in obvious violation of copyright law and were forced to hand over their inventory. And in 2006, they went the way of the dodo, which ironically is also how they lived. This story was kind of a big deal at the time, and versions of the edited films were fodder for comedy, but it was a flash in the pan in the pop culture. But when I saw the headline the other day, I thought it'd be fun to dig into this, and uncles, I was right. So I started bouncing around online, and there's a fascinating video that these people put together, the VidAngel people, justifying what they're doing, saying that they're trying to prevent Hollywood's bigotry, misogyny, and yes, homophobia from infecting the minds of children.
Wow.
Even claiming that their service allows religious families to cut out, say, the Lord's name being taken in vain, and trauma survivors to cut out trigger scenes.
Oh,
You see, VidAngel is the woke one, protecting LGBTQ and rape victims from those dastardly Hollywood types. So,
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
and we'll get in a minute into the very strange dichotomy of religious people's weird love-hate relationship with Hollywood. But first, I want to take you guys with me down one of the craziest rabbit holes I've been down in a while. I found my way to the VidAngel website and noticed that they offer the first 30 days for free, so I signed up.
Of course you did. Yes. You didn't invite me over?
Oh my God. I wanted to see how their filters work. So first I thought I'd see how they handle profanity, and what better film than The Wolf of Wall Street.
Okay.
So widely, claimed to be the most vulgar movie of all time as far as profanity.
Is that right?
Yeah, the most fucks ever used in a movie, and on and on. So
More than Lebowski?
yeah. Once you select the film, you can select the filters, which are customized to each film. And when I say customized, you have no idea how literal I'm being. So in The Wolf of Wall Street, you select filters. You can select the heading language, subheading sexual, and see that cock is said 7 times in this movie.
Wait, so it makes you read the words that you're trying to...
Oh my God, you guys. So cock is C asterisk CK.
Okay.
Okay.
Cunt 2 times, C asterisk NT.
Come on.
Right. Cum, C asterisk M. You can go to the other subhead.
I am having so much fun imagining some
God.
Mormon mom going through and having to read all these. The asterisk doesn't mean you're not reading that word.
Exactly.
What is she saying in her head?
She's just, okay, I don't want them to hear
Asterisks, asterisker.
It gets so much crazier.
Yeah.
Under the subheading profanity, we have F word 662 times.
662.
Holy shit.
The thing I didn't realize is these are all drop-down menus. You can select specific profanities or specific instances of specific profanities. For instance, all
Lord.
662 uses of the word fuck are listed.
What?
And if you choose, you could select every other fuck or every third fuck.
Look, all I want to hear is, I want to hear one fuck in the middle, and that's it.
You can do that.
Or I want to hear all of the fucks but one.
It gets so strange. Under the
It's like
subhead,
you're reading the script.
under the subheading blasphemy, we have Jesus here spelled J asterisk S.
They can't write the word Jesus?
25 times.
God.
That's their favorite word.
God, G asterisk D.
Oh my God.
Okay, let's go under the subheading vulgar gestures.
Oh, good.
And here things are described. And here is a very partial list. A man gestures with his middle finger. A man gestures with his middle finger. A man gestures with his middle finger. A woman gestures with her middle finger. A man gestures with his middle finger. A man chokes on food. A man gestures with his middle finger.
Wait,
Chokes on food.
That's right.
one of these things is
How
not
is
like
that
the
vulgar?
other.
I don't know.
I'm surprised that there isn't an asterisk where the I is in finger, right?
So, okay, under the heading sex, subheading shown without nudity, we have described a woman performs oral sex on a man, only her head is seen. A woman manually stimulates a man spanks a woman while they kiss.
Oh my God.
Under the subheading shown with nudity, heading sex shown, subheading shown with nudity, a man and topless woman have sex. 2 men and a woman have group sex. A man masturbates. His genitals are visible. Multiple men are seen having sex with each other. Multiple men and women are fully naked and having sex with multiple people.
There are a lot of scenes in this movie that I do not recall. I'm going to say that.
All right.
Go back and watch it.
And B, I could masturbate just to the drop-down menus of this
Okay,
fucking
okay,
service.
yes.
What are we accomplishing here?
A couple things. How many Mormons do you think are coming to guilty climax just reading these descriptions?
This is what I'm saying.
Right? But they can still say they have not watched an R-rated movie.
Exactly.
It's like the BYU sex not sex. It's like the floating and the
Right,
sex.
yeah.
Exactly.
This is the R-rated movie version of that.
So we're still in the Wolf of Wall Street.
And the
we
second
have-
thing, sorry,
No,
is how is this possible? How many movies are on their site? How is it
So
possible
many.
to do this?
So many. Okay, I'll get to that. It's so crazy.
Okay.
They still have more headings: nudity, kissing, immodesty. Under discriminatory, they have a subheading: racial slurs, bigoted language, under which there is only one word: fag, and there is no asterisk in fag.
Okay, so
What?
that
Yeah.
gets left in.
Well, and you wouldn't want to think that, like, you bleep out the word fog. That would be confusing.
Fog. Is there a drop down menu that just says fashionable shoes? And you can just
You can, yeah,
make
Mormons
sure you
hate
never
that.
see those.
Yeah.
Oh my God. This is, you know what? I realize now I could have been having a job this whole time where I get to be the one that watches the movies and
Totally.
and flags all the things.
And that's the thing is I wasn't able to figure out is if there is an algorithm of some kind, or
There has to be.
There's a team of young Mormons in a basement in Provo with cum-drenched legal pads.
Yeah.
Just madly scribbling down.
I mean, there has to be an algorithm, but also
Has to be.
like an algorithm can't look at a
Right.
a flipping off or a sex scene. An
Yeah.
algorithm can't accurately describe that. So people are watching these things and then just typing stuff out. I am so happy about this
And
right now.
there's still in the Wolf of Wall Street, heading violent, subheading graphic. A couple places it says it describes the violence, and then a couple places it says spoiler alert.
Oh, that's nice.
We don't want to describe this violence or this thing because it will ruin the movie for you.
Right. So block it out.
Right.
So, Doug, what happened?
I don't know what happens in that movie because I had to block out the most important parts.
Yeah.
Plot points.
So if you select whatever, if you take out all the fucks,
Yeah.
does it just go silent? What
Yes.
happens in the
So
movie?
I watched huge swaths of The Wolf of Wall Street with all of the filters on. I just said select all and started watching The Wolf of Wall Street.
Yes.
And there's moments where it's just incoherent because whenever there's a swear where they can't cut the scene, it just goes silent for a second.
Right.
In The Wolf of Wall Street, it's like watching a silent movie.
It's like reading the Mueller report. It's just
Yes.
90% redacted, right?
Yeah.
And because that movie has so much exposition all the time, there's a scene where Leonardo DiCaprio's doing cocaine. We see him pour the cocaine out of a bag onto a mirror, chop it up with a credit card, roll up a $100 bill, and the only part we don't see is him actually snorting it.
Oh my God.
But then we see him lean back and rub his nose and sniff, right? It's
So you can extrapolate from incomplete evidence.
And the thing was, every time he would say, it would block out where he was saying fuck. I said fuck in my head.
Yeah, of course you did.
So what are we accomplishing here?
Do you see his mouth say the word?
Oh, yeah.
So, yes, you know exactly what's happening. This is the same. Look, if everybody listened to Doug and my most recent foray onto the Gamcast, onto god-awful movies, you know Mormons are totally on board with saying flip or fetch or any kind of substitute.
Yeah.
Which is so dumb because all you're doing is saying the word in your head without saying the word.
Oh my God.
That's right.
Okay. So I gotta do this because this is too fun. How about a violent movie? How does it handle violence? So Django Unchained, for example.
Oh God.
Under the heading violence,
Django?
under the heading violent, subheading graphic, and this is an extremely partial list. We have described a man shoots a man and an animal in the head with a gun. A man shoots a man who falls off an animal's back. 2 men shoot several men multiple times with guns. A man with a gun shoots 3 men at close range and causes one to explode.
I don't remember that. I've got to see that.
so-
I need to see the exploding man.
And of course, all 128 uses of the N-word are listed, but they do put asterisks in there. So
Okay.
surprise, surprise.
That's good.
Okay.
I'm surprised that the drop-down menu just doesn't say black person acting rudely.
I know, right?
Right.
Not appropriate. Yeah.
Not being appropriately servile to white person.
Now, here's where we get pretty crazy. How about sexual content? One of the movies they have on their catalog is 2018's very disturbing sexually charged Suspiria. I don't know if you guys have seen that movie.
No, I don't
Yeah. They put that on there?
Yes.
What? How can a Mormon watch Suspiria?
Right.
It's an art film. Like, nothing about it will make sense to them, bleeped or not.
Right,
Nothing.
exactly. So under the heading sex/nudity/immodesty, under the subheading shown with nudity, we have the following descriptions. Again, a very partial list. A nude woman's breasts and inner thighs are shown while she moans. A woman's breasts and inner thighs are shown as she gasps. A nude woman touches her breast and reaches down to her genitals.
I want to know how you show inner thigh without showing genitals.
I know. Oh my God.
What are they doing?
And Uncle Dan, I
Yeah.
did check to see if they had showgirls on their list, but they didn't. So I'm sorry to say they haven't gotten around to it yet.
That was it's from a while ago, but I can't recommend it enough as a terrible, terrible movie.
But I describe these things, and you see them in your mind.
Yeah.
Right now, instead of me seeing it on a screen, you're putting it in my fucking brain.
Right.
Gentlemen.
Yeah.
So, to your point, Uncle Mark, what other movies do they have? Lots, including, and again, a very partial list: John Wick 1 and 2,
Oh, my God.
Ex Machina. They have the limited
Okay.
series on HBO about the Central Park 5, When They See Us.
John Wick when they're done with it, it is just a movie about a man sad about his dog.
Right, exactly.
That's all there is.
That we didn't see die. Yeah, and they have When They See Us, which is the Central Park 5 doc. And no,
And is that listed simply as blacks being rude to the great Christian President
I
Trump?
totally checked, and there's not a filter for wrongly convicted black teens exonerated. So, you know. But the other films, Black Hawk Down, Platoon, Pulp Fiction, Veep, Room, Schindler's List, Game of Thrones, Hardcore Henry, The Silence of the Lambs, Mother, on and on and on.
Well,
Oh, I would love to hear them describe Mother, like how they wrap their heads around what the fuck is happening in
Right?
that movie.
And the crux of this lawsuit is No one gave them permission
Right.
to edit any of this shit.
Right.
They don't have the right to do that.
They don't have the right to. And
This is someone else's work. It's like going through, someone's novel.
Yeah.
And just crossing out the
That's
parts
exactly
you don't
what
like.
it is.
And then you sell it and you make money off
Yeah.
of it. Not them.
That
like
is-
the
that is-
studios aren't making money off of this.
And bearing in mind that you can actually purchase movies to edit for content for like television or airplanes. So this can be done. It's just that these guys don't want to do it that way.
Right.
So
Right. This is the Mormon business ethos in a nutshell.
totally.
Right.
So-
we just take whatever we want, do whatever we want to it, and I don't care if it's not our property and we don't own it, right? It's just so shitty and shady.
Now, if there were only some way that parents and brittle snowflakes could possibly know the content of a movie before they mistakenly take their entire family to see The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas or Killer Clowns from Outer Space, if there were just some grading or rating system for films, oh well, I guess we'll never know.
Well,
know.
one could argue reasonably that the rating system of the National Motion Picture Association is ridiculous.
Also
I
bullshit.
agree with that.
Awful.
Is also bullshit.
But
Yeah.
it's there.
Yeah.
At least nobody's walking into films like completely blinded to
Exactly.
what's going on. You're right.
But on the other side of that coin is like these movies aren't meant for families. Some of these movies are not. They're meant for adult audiences.
Right.
And the
Right.
content was decisions made by the filmmakers and the writers and the actors to make a film that contained nudity or sex or violence or profanity.
Right.
Why are you watching this? It's not for you.
On what planet do you think to yourself, yeah, Wolf of Wall Street sounds interesting, but can I show it? How do I show it to my kids?
I know.
Right.
I
Like
know.
you don't that's just not what that's for. Even with everything edited out, you don't show Platoon to your children.
You know what this smacks
Well-
of to me is you know how Hasidic Jews find all kinds of ways to get around the
Absolutely. It's the workarounds
injunctions.
to the Sabbath laws. Absolutely.
this is so Mormons can watch R-rated movies but still dot that I.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Right.
what's
And-
really
and-
funny is that there's no mandate that Mormons not watch rated R films. That's actually not canon in their religion. That's just a suggestion that's heavily made and culturally accepted.
Caffeinated beverages, caffeinated sodas.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of that area.
Yeah. So
Right. And, these movies, people like Martin Scorsese and whoever else make these movies, not only not for children, but also for as you said, Doug, adults, but adults that are mature enough to not giggle
Right.
themselves into a shame pile every time somebody says pee-pee. Right.
Right.
You have to be mature enough to handle the fucking content as an adult. And it
Yeah.
is so sad and stupid and gross that this is a thing, not just for families, but full-grown people are like, well, I'd like to see Suspiria, but I don't want to see any sex or violence or challenging content. Fuck off.
Right.
Go watch one
Don't
of your
watch
fucking
that
Mormon
movie.
movies.
yeah.
Fuck off.
Wait until you're a grown up, 47-year-old man, and then
Yeah.
you can watch these movies.
Exactly. So, boy, this was fun. I'll tell you what, I had a great time watching this stuff.
Are you still signed up? We should have a movie night.
We should have a movie night.
I think
We
that'd
should
be fun.
exactly. We could watch 12 movies because we'll just turn on all the features, and it will be a very confusing montage of people walking to their cars and then credits.
So wait, you said what happens when they say fuck, but what happens if they're editing out violence? Does it just cut to the next bit?
So, like, it's crazy. Like, I shoot you, blood, squibs explode on your chest.
Right.
They just cut out the squibs, and just a fraction of a second of it. So you still see it all.
Huh.
And the sex, with the sex, they cut out.
Yeah.
Right. Like the moment I unbutton my top button,
It just goes to the
cuts
next
to the next scene. Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like the Japanese manga porn where they have to put. Have you seen that? Where they have to put just
pixelate
a tiny
the penis.
a tiny black band just around kind of the edge of the head of the penis.
Right.
It's like, okay, well, I can't tell what's going on there.
Yeah. Who knows? It could be anything, really.
Oh my
So
God.
there's
So
a little
it's still
a little-
around
a little
today.
about my reading habits. So
Well, thank you for introducing us to a soon-to-be dead.
Well, for once I can say my pleasure.
yeah, sued into the fucking core of the earth very shortly.
Yes,
and well
indeed.
deserved.
All right. Let's move on. Oh, gentlemen.
Hello.
Here's the thing. through the magic of recording technology,
Yeah.
we are not we're not talking when we're talking.
We're not doing it live.
The people that are hearing this are not hearing our voices, but rather magical representations.
Echoes
of those
from the
voices.
past.
That's right.
You're blowing my mind, brah.
Right. What
Yeah.
that ends up meaning in this case is that we're not all going to be in town for this episode, and therefore we're pre-recording, and we don't know who to thank for our patrons.
That's right. Dan is going to a non-extradition country for reasons that aren't your fucking business. And I am, as always, I'm in Canada for some reason.
Yeah, that's right. You've already been exiled.
Yeah.
So
find more vexing by the day. But yes, go on.
So, yeah, if you're expecting a shout out or a saint or a heaven this week, you'll have to wait till next week.
You'll have to wait till next week. It is coming. But I did want to make sure that we tell everybody how they can support us, because now's your chance to really overwhelm us, so that we have to do 2 full weeks worth of thanking, and we would love to thank too many people and feel the burden of that. So
burden us with your money love.
yes, indeed. So what you should do is pause the show right now, maybe after I explain this, and go to howtoheretic.com, find the support tab, and then that takes you to the Patreon page. It's so easy to sign up. You get to choose what level you want to support us. For the cost of just a coffee a day, you could probably support a kid, but you can also just give us a little bit of money, and we would appreciate it.
Yeah, and for a couple bucks a week, you get early access to the show. You're a Monday person, not a Wednesday person, and everybody loves Monday people, right? So be a Monday person, and if you can't do that, or even if you can, just go someplace where you can give us 5 stars, even the penny saver. Hit that button. And fill our night sky with gleaming beauty to guide us home.
Yes, do that. Thank you so much. Let's keep going.
Love ya.
Uncle Mark.
Yeah.
You know, we cover a lot of strange and disparate religious faiths and disciplines and the whatnot on this show.
Sure we do.
I think it's high time we look into this Mormon religion.
Well, it doesn't ring a bell. Does not.
I would have thought
ring
Uncle
a
Mark
bell.
would love it to hear about more men.
Oh,
zing. Tell me about these more. It is Pride Month this June. So
because you're gay, Mark.
Because you're a big old queer Bob. Tell me more men.
Yes, indeed. And boy, do I have more men for you.
Yay.
Because I'm titling this segment, the Nephites battle the Lamanites. No, not that one.
Yay.
Because if you've read the Book of Mormon, which I hope you haven't.
Yes, and don't ever do it.
Very few have. And those who have, they'll get out of their comas eventually.
Right.
Basically, the entirety of the book is just these two groups fighting each other, reconciling, and then fighting each other.
The Hatfield and McCoys of ancient America.
Right, over hundreds of, maybe thousands of years.
And for our listeners who understood exactly what Dan was saying, who are never Moes, and they know what he was saying because of this show, you're welcome.
Boom. Okay. So listeners will recall that you and I, Uncle Doug, went recently to Manti, Utah.
Yes, indeed.
And watched a whole pageant in which part of which was...
Pageant is probably a little bit rich for what you guys witnessed, right?
Well, I don't know what to call it. I definitely am not going to label it theater because it feels like it would be denigrating my own art form. So I'm not going to go there. Anywho, we saw this thing. Part of it was a retelling of certain Book of Mormon stories. Certain stories from this book that Joseph Smith claims he translated from plates of gold that were hidden in a hole in his backyard. Yeah, in his backyard.
Yeah.
So one of the stories, I think, I just wanted to look into because both you and I, Doug, and you're way more familiar with the Book of Mormon than I am.
Yeah.
Both of us went, wait, who?
Exactly.
What? And I do think I figured out why they chose that story as I was reading through it. So we'll get there.
All right.
This is a story from the Book of Alma. And the Book of Alma is a which, by the way, when you read the Book of Mormon, that's the book that you commit suicide on when you're trying to read it.
Truthfully.
And I will say this, I was not prepared for how much worse reading the Book of Mormon is than reading the Bible. Like, the Bible can be wordy and can be, obfuscated and tricky to navigate. It's got nothing on this book.
Yeah.
Right.
The Book of Mormon, I mean, Mark Twain called it chloroform in print.
Right.
And then Christopher Hitchens accused him of hitting too close to the mark, considering it's got a book called Ether.
That's right.
Which I think is hilarious. It is so boring that literally what I had to do, because I was reading this on...
There's some good stuff in Ether that we'll talk about another time. But go on.
Yeah, well, sure, we'll get to stuff. But what I had to do in order to keep myself engaged and understanding and make sure I understood what was happening was I literally copied and pasted the stuff from the church's website into a Word document and edited as I went.
Oh, my God.
I just thought you guys should know that. And literally, I took it from, I think, 2,200 words down to 1,800 words. And I didn't change the meaning of anything.
The image, the mental image I have of you doing this project, Uncle Dan, is you like in a straitjacket with your eyes propped open, like the final scene in Clockwork Orange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's shorter, and it's still no better. I literally cut things like it came to passes, now and behold is constantly being thrown in. It was like he had these, Joseph Smith very clearly had these ticks that he would just throw in, and he thought that it made it sound Bible-y or religious-y, which I'm sure other people do too. I changed things like weapons of war to weapons, because you don't have to say weapons of war. You can
I get
just,
it. Yeah.
And again, this is the conceit about the writing of the gold plates. If your job is to chisel a story onto a gold plate you smelted from the earth yourself,
right,
brevity would be important.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
that's just me, I guess.
Right.
You would think so.
That come in at about 8 ounces per page. Right.
Right. So good luck. Yeah, exactly. You can't even carry this thing. But anyway, nonetheless, sometimes it's important to use the phrase "they did go forth" as opposed to "they went." In this. So anyway, let me just tell you the story. We're going to talk about the story of the Lamanites, led by a man named Zerahemna. Now, if you have read, if you're familiar at all with Mormonism, then you just think I mispronounced something, because there is a place in the Book of Mormon called Zerahemla. But and Doug, maybe you want to tell the story about your brilliant apologetic that you heard about names.
Oh, so on the ride to Manta, I was telling this story, and Uncle Mark, you'll remember this. I was in seminary. I was probably 15 or 16, and they gave us the apologetic that the Book of Mormon could not have been made up by one man or several people,
Right.
because of the sheer number and variety of names in it. And I came home. I was going to put you in the ground with that one. And I cornered you, and I'm like, well, Joseph Smith couldn't have made it up because there's so many names. No one man can make up that many names. And your response was, time me. And you just started going, zap it, zapatoop, zabadida, loop, lure. It's like, I remember walking away, God damn it.
I was at like 56 before you turned around.
So embarrassed.
Zimzam, zipakakak, lupaka, lagagugu.
And you'd think that would be an exaggeration, but that's literally how these names are going to play out. And also, he repeated a bunch of names. We'll get to it. So anyway, Zerahemna, not to be confused with Zerahemla, was the leader of the Lamanites, which the Lamanites are the bad guys. For those who don't know, Lamanites equals bad guys. They are color-coded so that we know who's who.
Book of Mormon's color-coded.
As a matter of fact, one of the ways that I looked at this story was on the church's own website. There is a picture book version of this, and the images are like one group and their leader is white and delightsome, and one group is filthy savage Injuns. And that's basically, that's what it looks like, and it is embarrassing.
Fuck.
Here we go.
Not to us. It's not embarrassing to us. It should be to someone else, though.
Yes, indeed. I'm embarrassed for them. Anyway, so the Lamanites outnumber the Nephites. Zerahemna appoints Amalekites to be their captains because they were, quote, of a more wicked and murderous disposition.
So darker.
Right, exactly. Which I think is a good call. That's who you want at the head of your army.
Yeah.
And he wanted to make sure that Nephite hatred was at a maximum. So he made sure so that he could control his people, and they'd all attack the Nephites and kill/enslave them. So this is the plan. The good Nephites, by contrast, just wanted to live their good lives and be happy in their good houses, on their lands, with their wives and their children, and have all of their rights and privileges and their liberty, and worship their God according to their desires. And that was just a paraphrase of the actual... That's basically what the verse says. So enjoy that. And it keeps going through that. It keeps going through this litany of all the Nephites wanted was their lands and their wives and their liberty and their this and their... It's very...
And their breakfast cereals.
Right. So there you go. They knew that the Lamanites wanted to destroy them. The Nephites did, and that they would kill anybody who believed in their God, and they knew that the Lamanites just hated their brethren of the who are the people of anti-Nephi Lehi, which is my favorite thing.
Now.
Nephi and Lehi being names early on in the Book of Mormon. So yes, Joseph Smith was so good at coming up with names, he just added the word anti to that. Inexplicable. Who, by the way, who were also called the people of Ammon. So why didn't you just say that in the first place, you fucking dick? No. Anyway, and those dudes just super pinky swore that they'd never take up arms. So the Nephites were going to have to defend everybody.
Right.
So the people of Ammon gave the Nephites a bunch of their provisions, and they prepared for a fight. Now, the captain of the Nephite army was Moroni. No, not that one. Yes, we Mormons all know about a Moroni. He's on the top of all of their temples and everything, but this is a different Moroni, so fuck you.
Well, maybe this is the one that Hitchens pronounced as Moroni. Maybe that's the difference.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. You can pronounce it however you want. As Noah from Scathing pointed out, it's all made up. Don't tell me how to fucking pronounce the shit. He was 25 years old, apparently at the time. Now, they were all armed with swords and scimitars, which I assume which actually it turns out it's spelled Cimeters, scimitars, which is an alternate spelling for scimitars, which is a sword. So why you need to differentiate that from swords, I don't know.
Word count. It's a book report. You got to get the word count.
Got to get the word count. So they're armed with swords and scimitars and all manner of weapons of war. Again, weapons of war is a phrase that I had to start editing out because I know. Anyway, the Nephites were very clever. Also, this is a good way to win a war, guys. They figured out to wear clothes. So really big point on that one.
Clothes of war? Were they clothes of war, Dan, or clothes of other things?
Well, they start with a layer of clothes of anything, thick clothing, and then they had breastplates and arm shields and head shields, which literally shields to defend their heads. And like I said, thick clothing. Whereas the Lamanites were just in loincloths. Naked, but for a little sexy thing on the front.
Right. Wild people.
Right, exactly. Savages, you know. They were also... so all they had was no armor. They just defended themselves with their swords and scimitars and bows and arrows and slings and stones.
And shields of war.
And shields of war. The Lamanites were scared because the Nephites were cheating and wearing all that armor. So they ran away to the land of, you ready for it? Manti,
Ooh.
for which the dumb Mormon town was named. And
That's why they use that story.
boom, it's the story of their namesake city. So, great. Thanks, guys. Which is why they use a story that none of us had ever heard before, buried deep in the worst book in the Book of Mormon. Anyway, so the Lamanites fled to Manti because nobody would be able to find them, because it's so hard to find a group of thousands of men.
Sure.
As you know. But Moroni was clever, and he sent some spies, and those spies figured out where they were, and they went off, and so they knew where they were, and Moroni took his armies and figured out a place strategically. And there's a really funny moment where he says that because they were defending their wives and their land and their houses and their freedom and their God and their whatever, he felt it was no sin to use a stratagem. Which, okay, yeah, in war, probably not a sin to use a stratagem, but he had to come to that. It wasn't obvious to him. So he plants a bunch of soldiers on the left bank of he finds a valley, and he plants some soldiers and hides them on the left bank of the river, and hides some other soldiers on the right bank of the river. Do you see how clever?
Is this the anti-Lehi, Manti-Nephi anti-valley?
This is, yes.
Ha, good.
Yeah, yes, exactly. So anyway, he also rallied a bunch of other, I don't know what, tribes, a bunch of other groups to fight with them. And they hid in all of these different places in this valley that they knew that the bad guys would come through.
Okay.
So
I'm starting to think that Joseph Smith was not a great storyteller.
what? Wait, you hold on. Hold that thought. Let's put a pin in that. We'll come back to it.
Act 3 better be pretty good.
Right? It
won't be.
Nope. So the bad guys come through the valley, and then Nephites pop up. Ha-ha! And the southern attack was led by Lehi. No, not that one. And they managed to surround the Lamanites. Now, I'm going to read you. This is Alma chapter 43, verse 36. I'm going to read it exactly because I think we'll all figure out what's really being said here.
What if I can't handle the truth? I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready for this.
Oh, I think you'll like this one.
Okay.
The Lamanites, when they saw the Nephites coming upon them in the rear, turned around and began to contend with the army of Lehi.
And contend they did.
Yummy.
Come on. Jesus.
Yeah. I just thought that was cute. That's nice and sexy.
Sure.
I am going to go on, though, and read probably verses 37 and 38 as well, just so that all of you people who weren't raised in Mormonism, who have never had to contend with this fucking language, I want you to hear how shitty this stuff is. So here we go. Verse 37. And the work of death commenced on both sides, but it was more dreadful on the part of the Lamanites, for their nakedness was exposed to the heavy blows of the Nephites with their swords and their scimitars, which brought death among almost at every stroke. There was now and then a man fell among the Nephites by their swords and the loss of blood, that being shielded from the more vital parts of the body, or the more vital parts of the body being shielded from the strokes of the Lamanites by the breastplates and their arm shields and their head plates, and thus the Nephites did carry on the work of death among the Lamanites.
Did he just say the same thing twice back to back?
Constantly.
Oh my God,
that's dreadful.
There were like 8 times I thought I had a stroke reading this thing. It just happens over and over again.
And just to be clear also, this Uncle Dan and I saw this acted out on a hillside in southern Utah by 150 15-year-old kids who rehearsed it maybe twice.
Yeah.
In a startling display of theatrical violence. Right?
Yeah, exactly. So the Lamanites run away across the river, but Lehi didn't chase them. He just, I don't know if he was afraid of water or if he couldn't swim, but he just kept his guys on the other side of the river. The Lamanites tried to get back to Manti, but surprise, Moroni is there with his forces, and this time the Lamanites actually fought exceedingly. And let me tell you something. The word exceedingly is used twice in 2 sentences. That's just great writing.
Yeah, it's like Trump and strong.
Right. They fought like dragons, apparently, and did smite in 2 their head plates, and pierced their breastplates, and cut off their arms. So the Lamanites were doing okay for a minute there.
That's coming back. Good, strong comeback in the second quarter there.
Yeah, you need that. But the Lamanites were fighting for a cause. Freedom isn't free. Give me liberty or give me death. America! So they won. And when they saw that they had won, Moroni told Zerahemna that they didn't want to kill them, even though they are super duper bad and total dicks. But God made us win, so, we're pretty great. He does go on and on about how much more Dad loves me than he loves you. He tells Zerahemna to give up all of their weapons, and we won't kill you as long as you totes promise not to ever try to make a war with us again. He does this. I'll again read the exact scripture.
Oh, goody.
If ye do not this, ye are in our hands, and I will command my men that they shall fall upon you and inflict the wounds of death in your bodies, that you may become extinct, and that we will see who shall have power over this people. Yea, we will see who shall be brought into bondage. Which could be shortened to, if you do not this,
surrender or die.
I will command my men to kill you.
Right.
But no, we have to make sure that we hit that word count.
It's the word count.
Zerahemna gives up his sword and his scimitar and his bow, because apparently he had all of them on his naked body. But he was like, no, you didn't win because God loves you more. You won because the armor that you wear. So he was calling him on his bullshit. I liked that. He says, we definitely will try to kill you again. I'm not going to make a promise that I won't keep. And that shows integrity.
Zerahemna seems to be the hero of this story.
Yeah, so he basically he lays down his sword, and then Moroni. So basically, what Zerahemna says is, look, either give us back our swords, and we will continue this and finish it one way or the other. We'll either prevail or die, or just let us go, and you don't get a promise out of us. So, dear uncles, how do you think wise young Moroni's response came?
Probably in the most unwise possible way, I would guess.
Did he come upon him?
he in his rear. That's right. He gave Zerahemna back his weapons, saying, "We will end the conflict." Now, you might think that this means that the massacre is about to ensue, but no, because Moroni has apparently had a stroke. This is, again, I'm going to go back to the actual wording in the book, because this, I still am trying to puzzle out what the fuck happens here. This is Moroni speaking. Now I cannot recall the words which I have spoken. Therefore, as the Lord liveth, ye shall not depart, except ye depart with an oath that ye will not return again against us to war. Now ye are in our hands, and we will spill your blood upon the ground, or ye shall submit to the conditions which I have proposed. Now you may think that I am just reading what I just said happened. I've made some mistake.
I literally was about to say.
This is his second time saying this, only this time he's just said, I cannot recall the words which I have spoken.
I think he's playing head games with Zerahemna.
Well,
I think he's fucking with him, like trying to make him think he's crazy.
Well, it works, because Zerahemna freaks the fuck out and just charges at Moroni with a sword. But one of Moroni's soldiers knocks the sword out of his hand and scalps him.
Oh, fuck.
Jiminy.
Yes, indeedy. Which Zerahemna then apparently is okay enough that he just runs back into the crowd of his own people. And Moroni's soldier puts that scalp onto the top of his sword and holds it up for everybody to see and says basically what Moroni should have been saying this whole time, which is just basically either lay down your swords and never come back, or we will fucking scalp you.
Right.
Or we will ask you another time.
Right, exactly. Because, well, no, that asking another time is apparently Moroni's great trick.
Yeah.
So a bunch of the bad guys do lay down their swords and run away because they're terrified.
Yeah.
But Zerahemna, who is missing his top bit, was pissed about it and commanded the remaining bad guys, who were all pretty fucking mad as well, to attack. And they were decimated. They attacked. They got mostly killed. Finally, Zerahemna, they basically stopped the thing and, you've won, fine. And Zerahemna super duper pinky swore that they would never fight again if they just stop killing him, and also maybe give me a hat.
I could use some unguent.
He didn't actually say that, but I'm just trying to picture a man running around a battlefield without the top of his head.
A bloody skull top. Well, that's amazing.
Yes.
Wow.
So now in chapter 44, verse 21, we start to end it up with, now the number of their dead. Oh my God, I can't. Okay, I'm sorry. I wasn't prepared to read this. Here we go. Now, the number of their dead was not numbered because of the greatness of the number.
Oh, fuck. Come on.
I did not do this. This is not me.
Jesus Christ.
I'll start again because you interrupted, Doug, and that's your fault. Now, the number of their dead was not numbered because of the greatness of the number. Yea, the number of their dead was exceedingly great, both on the Nephites and on the Lamanites. So, we don't know how many died because number.
If you like the word number, that is the verse for you.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. So they dumped their dead. Oh, this is great. They dumped their dead into the river, which then they all floated gracefully all the way out to sea. So then they were buried.
Problem solved.
Then they were buried at sea, and everybody was happy, and they all went home. The end.
Well, what a great story, Dan.
Isn't it?
I really love the incredibly clear moral that
yes.
Dan will now tell us what that is.
Well, I mean, obviously, it's don't number your numbers with numbers.
Throw your dead into your water supply.
Yes, indeed. There you have it. I just wanted to tell a story from the Book of Mormon, and now I regret everything.
And we never have to do that again.
And for our listeners who don't know, that this is not an unusual, aberrant story. The Book of Mormon is just all this.
It's all this, only with way more it came to passes, because that is like it. Yeah, it's like he has it came to pass Tourette's on this thing.
Well, I guess that concludes this week's How to Heretic Book Club chapter.
Yeah.
And we'll pick it up next week with not another one of these. So
thank God, no.
Let's move on.
Let's move on. Well, friends, that is it for this week's show.
Hey, we'd love to hear from you. Tell us all about your various armaments by sending us an email at howto@howtoheretic.com.
Or if you think you can top our Arnold impersonations, you can leave us a voicemail about it at 903-88-HOW2, which is 903-884-6986. And I'm also on Twitter at HowToHeretic.
Don't forget the Twitter.
Get to the Twitter!
Thanks so much to our patrons. We love you. We'll thank you next week.
And thanks to Cody Layton for editing the show.
And thank everybody for tuning in.
Bye, friends.
Bye. Auf Wiedersehen.